on.
Oh, it's green now.
It's green now. I don't think this thing was on, but welcome back. And if you didn't catch it just a moment ago, we're here with Hot Rod Charlie Mullins, the one-time GNCC motorcycle champion and the one-time EMTB GNCC champion. So you are technically a two-time GNCC champion then, right?
Yeah, I guess technically.
Yeah, looking at it like that. And yeah, man, just apologize for the technical difficulties, but that's just chaos in my life, man. If you know what my life's been like the last week or so, it's been crazy. I've been back 20 years. I did a reunion radio show for the morning show that I used to do, where I was the Porterhouse character on that, the sidekick. We went and did that last Thursday. I went to Jeff Cernick's for the Jeremiah Jones ATV Pro Motocross National there, where we honored Jeremiah Jones, and had also not only that, but ATV Motocross National Championship, where that was a really good battle between, a lot of good racing going on there. And then, of course, I went to Myrtle Beach, had to go pick some folks up, and came back. I was working on taxes all day yesterday, and whenever it came time to do what I really needed to do, the one thing I needed wasn't there, so I had to make a few phone calls and this, that, and so anyway, I come here and I'm setting up sound at Warren Lilly's pad, man. I like to call it Warren Lilly's pad. It's the Lilly family farm here in the GNCC Racing Nation, and Charlie Mullins joining us here. And Charlie, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some other stuff. If this works out the way that it is supposed to, which for some reason I don't have the fondness of we're just going to skip commercials tonight. I'm just going to say thanks to everybody that helps make things possible. I want to send a shout out to our friends at Teely Energy Racing, and of course Teely Energy Racing, a proud supporter of the 10 Seconds XC Off-Road Cast. They're also a proud supporter of Quad Radio. I want to say thanks to that. Also, the sponsors you see on here are supporting Quad Radio as well as 10 Seconds XC Off-Road Cast. But I want to say thanks to Phoenix Racing also, and the Phoenix Honda Racing team. I want to say thanks to Jeremy Ladon Racing. DP Brakes, what's stopping you? By the way, do you use DP Brakes on your EMTB, on your mountain bike by any chance?
Unfortunately, no. I think I use SRAM, whatever they come.
Well, you should use DP Brakes. If they don't make them, I'm sure they do. If they don't, they will. But anyway, Charlie, you should DP Brakes, because that should be the only thing stopping you, man, really, to be honest with you. I want to say thanks to our friends at also Decker Training Facility, a brand new training facility down at County Line Motocross in Florida down there. We will have some details coming up more in upcoming casts and things of that nature. But I just wanted to get this dude on. It's a Thursday night. It's a nice evening. Even though it's dinner time, your wife's got dinner done, the kids are waiting to eat, I'm starving to death. I was like, man, this is my perfect opportunity to talk with Charlie Mullins, because I've been saying I'm going to do it. Guess what, Charlie? I'm doing it.
Yeah, glad to be on.
So what's going on in Hot Rod's world these days, man?
Pretty much wide open, I guess, is the best way to put it. Actually, life was pretty easy when I was racing. That's all I had to focus on, but since then it's kind of picked up steam as far as like being busy in life, with Moto T's, the bicycles, the bicycle training, working for KTM, training the riders, being a dad with 3 kids. So I don't have much time during the day. So
and I thought I had chaos in my life, huh?
Yeah, no, it's hectic. Just pack up on a Thursday. Thankfully the race was close for us. We relocated to Grove City, Pennsylvania, where my wife's from and where the business are. So moved a couple years ago from North Carolina, and call Pennsylvania home now, and really enjoy it. And we kind of settled down there, and we're enjoying life. So
well, when it all began for you, you were an Ohio boy out around Cincinnati, if memory serves me correct, right?
Yeah, just kind of Hamilton, Ohio. Then moved to Hickory, North Carolina. 2008, and that was just kind of like the off-road hub at the time for the off-road scene. It was centrally located, a lot of guys in the area, and so bought a house there and just kind of lived there while I raced, and was there 10 years and enjoyed our time. We still have good friends, we miss them, but don't really make it down too much, but we keep in touch with the friends that we made down there. So Yeah, it's all good.
It's a rather storied career you've got, Charlie. I remember you obviously from when you were riding on the, I think it was a YZ85 on a Yamaha, if memory serves me correct, back, gosh,
2001.
Yeah.
I would have been on
Yeah.
YZ80s.
yeah, that would have been around that time. And Dad, you know, I remember your dad, Big Charlie, was just like, you know, he really seemed to be like all about you, and for good reason, man. I mean, Dad was your biggest fan. Dad was your biggest supporter, and not only that, Dad was your biggest trumpet as well.
Yeah, no, he, you know, he was the one that made it happen. You know, he brought me to the races, and you know, we had friends that helped us get to the race at the time. And but yeah, I mean, he, there was never a doubt that he didn't believe in me in racing, and he probably believed in me more than myself. And I don't really know. I mean, I never really, growing up, you know, I guess I was 14, 15, and didn't really even think about possibly even making a living. But I don't know. I just kind of,
It's almost
that
like
point.
it's almost like you got on the motorcycle and it just kind of took control, really.
yeah. I mean, I don't really even can really pinpoint how it happened, but I mean, I just maybe had, you know, I worked hard, you know, when I was younger. You know, I think it's changed a lot since, you know, I was 14, 15, especially the way the kids train these days with the facilities and all that. But you know, I was just a kid. I remember, heck, I was in 10th, 11th grade. I enjoyed riding my skateboard more than, you know, GNCC, and it was just something I did on the weekends, and just kind of, I don't know, I always had, I guess, maybe a special talent for it, I guess. I don't know. But as I got older and, you know, realized I had potential, that's kind of when I started putting more focus. But I grew up normal, went to, you know, normal school, and just had a normal childhood, and, you know, had a nice time growing up, and friends and all that.
You know, and there's not many, if any, that are on this pro road that really can say they had that, to be honest with you, at this level these days. I mean, there might be a handful of them still out there, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's turned into a year-round job, even as a youth rider. I mean, I know we started youth racing to kind of farm guys like you,
Yeah.
and bring you up through the ranks to give you, you know, so we would have riders and things like that back in the day. But, you know, I mean, it seems to have worked too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed. I mean, I was running, I mean, like we said, 2001, so I mean, that was almost 20 years ago. So I mean, a lot's changed since then, and I think the kids' speed these days compared to, you know, what I was at is just, you know, crazy how fast the young kids are. But I think it's just the facilities and just kind of a more structured schedule, and that's kind of what.
Do you think if you came in it today, same scenario, you think you would have the same kind of successes?
I think it depends on the rider and just the amount of talent, but I think it could be possible with the right rider and stuff. Yeah, but like I said, I know what it takes now, because, you know, I still train, you know, Ben, Caleb, and Josh. You know, in the wintertime,
Mhm,
I go down to their place and kind of run a full-on boot camp, and it's pretty hardcore and intense what they do now to be at the top. So
Yeah, and I think Ben and Josh are two good examples. Even though, I mean, they come from the Northeast, where there's obviously a well of great off-road riders.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, when you look at the ranks of GNCC now, I go down through my papers a lot, and I read, and all these guys are coming from up out of New England, and they're all rippers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they're every one. They are every one, and that's the beauty of it. It's almost kind of like, man, wow, these guys are as fast, and a lot of them are faster than a lot of the GNCC guys. You know?
Yeah, it seems like New England's definitely kind of taken over. I know when, I think it was Ohio, you know, when I was growing up, was kind of the hotbed. You know, everybody fast was from Ohio, but it seems like there's a lot of New England kids finally, I guess, trekking down the GNCCs, and it's definitely showing, and you know how fast those guys are, you know, coming from New England and showing their speed here. And you know, it's been great working with Josh and Ben. You know, they're two hard workers, and you know, they have a lot of speed that they've brought, and you know, it's great to see and be a part of it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I mean, you've run the gamut. Like you said, you know, you were in the youth in the early 2000s, but that mid 2000s into the say 10, 12 years ago, man. I mean, that's whenever you were making the step up into the big class and really making a name for yourself during that time.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I guess 2000 was my first year racing GNCCs full time, and 2001 I raced. I focused more on motocross a little bit. I wanted to go to Loretta's and Super Mini, and ended up breaking my arm and having an injury, so I didn't make it. And then 02, I kind of really focused on Loretta's motocross and made it in the schoolboy, but just got waxed. I just it was a good experience, but so I would say 2003 was kind of my first full year of GNCC and big bikes, and progressed pretty fast. I ended up going pro, I guess, at the end of 05, and was getting on podiums, so my speed kind of came on quick once I went to the big bikes.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I mean, that was an era when, you know, I mean, we had some pretty fast guys, if memory serves me correct. 05 would have been the year that U-Haul came to town.
Yeah.
Then
I had a tough few years.
Yeah,
First year in pro with U-Haul and Knight, so my first 3 years were, I had to deal with some pretty fast guys and learn, you know, from world-class guys, but you know, the U.S. guys were playing catch up. You know, Barry, they caught on, but that speed they brought, you know, it definitely caught me off guard moving up.
But you know, it probably made you the rider you are, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it definitely helped. And then, you know, once Caleb came up and started bringing speed, I think it kind of elevated more. And I think we were I think it's elevated since, you know, the last GNCC that I won was in 14. So I mean, it's been 6 years since, you know, since my injury, and you know, it's progressed so much since then. You know, the speed that I had then, it might be able to get you top 5, I would say, but I would like to think if I wouldn't have got hurt, I would have been able to progress and kind of get to that point. But yeah, it just keeps, you know, escalating each year, you know, with the guys just stepping up. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, it is, and you know, I mean, and that was a heartbreaker for you. I mean, you were the guy you brought, I think, to the Americans and the American side of the racing, a different approach to it. I mean, I guess you had that motocross training mentality. I mean, you brought some of that, but you couldn't really rely on motocross mentality training or that style of training. I mean, there were some things that you had to do, but I mean, you had to really come up with something for yourself, or did somebody already have that worked out? Because I know Steve Hatch and Rodney Smith and those guys, they had some regiments and things. Did they have something already set in place?
Yeah,
kinda?
I mean, thankfully for me, I mean, as I came up, I got to work with Rodney. I've worked with, you know, when I came on the scene, I guess first year in pro, I learned from Randy Hawkins, Barry Hawk, and you know, I just kind of, I guess, fed off each guy. I learned a little bit, and I've kind of applied what you know, I learned from them, and just kind of created my own thing that works for me. And kind of towards the end of before I got hurt, I became pretty good friends with Justin Brayton, and so I was doing motos with him, and I think that's kind of what helped my speed too, you know, going to the JGR track and doing motos with, you know, the fast moto guys. And unfortunately, that's where I got hurt, was at JGR. But you know, it you know, it's just part of it. You know, when you take that chance every time you ride, and you know, it's just an unfortunate.
So it was
accident.
14 you got hurt, right?
Yeah, it was. I think the end of May.
And when was it before? Because you came back for one more hurrah, so to speak. I guess.
I mean, my whole injury. I mean, it'd take an hour to tell that whole story of what I had, but yeah, I guess long story short, I ended up getting hurt at the end of May, and was leading the GNCC at the time. Had a pretty decent lead over Caleb, but you know, it was a pretty hard battle. You know, we were swapping race wins it seemed like each race, but kind of got on a roll. I think I won 2 in a row, and then ended up getting hurt, and then had surgery on my wrist and found out my other one was broke, so I had to have a surgery on that. And I came back, I think it was Powerline, and I ended up fourth. So I thought, with my wrist, there was some hope, and just kind of stuck to it. And the last race was Ironman, and I remember that's kind of where it all went south, where I was starting to have issues. In them cornfields, I hit a braking bump so hard, I ended up re-breaking my scaphoid and breaking the screw. And so that kind of did me in a sense of, which kind of put me back too, is the very next day we had to fly to 6 days for Argentina. So I ended up riding 6 days with I guess a broke wrist and a broke screw in my wrist at the time, but I didn't know it. And that was my left one. And then on my right wrist, I was having issues with it was just dislocating real easy. The wrist wasn't stable, the ligaments were loose, and then had to have surgeries. And it kind of drug on for a couple years, and started riding. I did one race in 15. It was a sprint enduro, and I even went to Aldens to train. That's kind of another avenue that I was hoping. I was trying to do whatever I could to get back. So I went to Aldens to train, and then 16 I just my first race back was Steel Creek, and it was pretty cool. I led the first lap, which kind of caught me off guard, but then my wrist, after them wrist fusions that I had, I was kind of misled on how, I guess the doctor played it pretty casual. I wouldn't have been too limited, but I kind of underestimated what the partial wrist fusions were. So I think that kind of what did me in. But like I said, my injury, with all the multiple surgeries I had, it is a pretty detailed, lengthy explanation of how it is. But long story short, I ended up having to have both my wrists fused.
Here's what it looks like from a spectator's and a fan standpoint. When you came out at Steel Creek after that one race, I mean, obviously, I know you were in pain and all that, and but when you came out and you led that one lap and you pulled off with like that huge lead, and it was almost like you were wanting to leave with an exclamation point, and you said, "I'm done,"
Yeah, I remember exactly that. It was at Big Buck was my last race.
What's Big Buck?
Big Buck is 16.
Okay.
And
I knew it was one of those places.
Steel Creek, I ended up DNFing.
Okay.
I hit a mud hole and just jammed my wrist, and I was going backwards anyway at that point. I just knew it wasn't going good, and I mistimed a mud hole and jammed my wrist, so I called it a day. And then 2 weeks later went to Big Buck, and it just wasn't the same. I was just really struggling, and what really did it in for me was right before the FMF hill climb you had the wheelie, nothing even major, you just wheelied across the creek and hit the hill climb. But I think I was an hour in, and I went to wheelie, and my hand just came off. I had no grip strength and lost control and crashed. And once I did that, I rode up the service road, and I seen Auntie on the side of the road, and I said, "I'm done." And so I think he thought I meant I was done racing. But in my mind, I just knew all the training, what I've done, 2 years of prep trying to come back, it just wasn't going to happen. And I was at the point in life I wasn't willing to take that chance of getting hurt. And so it took a long time to move on, from where I was to where I am now. It's took a lot of grief, and but I'm at peace with how the whole thing went. I'm happy in life. Everything's good. I don't mind seeing Caleb win. I enjoy seeing his success. So and same with Josh and Ben. I'm on the other side now, so I don't really have any issues seeing all that. So it's all good. So
so answer this question: Could you whoop Caleb? Could you beat him on the track right now? Not right now. Not right now. But I mean, if you were still racing, I mean, honestly, it would have been good championship battles between you guys, though. Really.
Yeah. Deep down in my heart, I felt like 14 was my year. I really felt that was my year. The National Enduros, I think I won the first 6 in a row. I was undefeated in that. 14, I think I had. I was leading the points, and I really felt in control, and it was just a freak accident at the practice track, just a bike malfunctioned. And but no, Caleb, I've watched him progress since I raced him, and
I think you have a big hand in a lot of Caleb's successes also. I mean, you've done some mentoring and you set a good example. I mean, you set the bar on KTM as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I mean, me and Caleb, we have a real good relationship. I mean, even when we were racing, I mean, we were competitors, you know, pretty fierce, but we always raced clean. We never had, I remember Loretta's, the last race I won, we locked bars the last lap. It was kind of for the win, but we always raced clean, and we always had respect for each other under the tent. There was no issues, and you know, being on the other side now and working with them, you know, it's kind of a unique deal what I have with them going in the winter time. And but you know, it's cool to work with him and still be a part of it, and you know, watch, you know, his success. He's definitely made a name for himself in the off-road world, and you know, it's cool to see.
It is cool to see, and like you say, I mean, I think you kind of alluded to the fact that it might be a bittersweet thing, you know, being here at the track anyway, and seeing all the successes, you know, going on. But you know, I mean, like you said, you know, it took you a while to find your place, but I was really impressed with the way that KTM has kept you on board and kept you around. I mean, generally, you think teams like that would just cut you loose and you never hear anything else from them.
No, I mean, KTM, I mean, I can't thank Auntie and the team enough. I mean, they've stuck behind me since, you know, I got hurt the first, I just signed a 3-year deal in 2014, and I got hurt the first, you know, year of that deal, and you know, they stuck with me through that whole thing. There was injury clauses in my contract, and there was no issues on that. And even when I told Auntie, you know, because I was still under contract until the end of 2016, but I told Auntie I was done racing, and I mean, they honored the contract all the way through. And then honestly, at that point, I was kind of already shifting gears in life, the Moto T's and, you know, that side of the business thing. So I was kind of in that mindset to go on to that venture. And then I mean, it had to been a month or so after, you know, I retired from racing that they brought on Alden as the exclusive KTM trainer, and they were wanting to do an off-road thing, and so they offered me the job, which I was a little skeptical, just because I never was considered myself a personal trainer, so to say. So I thought about it, and you know, I took the job, and the first year was pretty tough doing it, you know, just because racing was still pretty fresh with me, you know, coming, I guess, being done racing, and then still being a part of it. So the first year was tough, but I found my groove the second year, and I've really been enjoying it. And yeah, KTM, I mean, I'm thankful they still take care of me. I still get a bike from them every year. I get to pick whatever bike I want, so
nice.
I don't get to ride it that much, right? You know, I ride a little bit, but not as much as I'd like. But I'm thankful for that, and you know, they've definitely taken care of me, so I can't thank them enough.
So you still do a little riding on occasion?
Yeah, I actually rode for the first time. I rode with Jesse Ansley because he's actually been, you know, I do training with him, and he's been staying in Grove City in PA this summer. So I actually went and rode with him for the first time in a couple years, where I suited up and rode the dirt bikes. So it was fun, but mainly, you know, my middle son Dax, he's 5 now, and he's kind of in the riding, so most of my riding's done with him. So yeah, it's kind of, my time's pretty limited. I guess I put most of my focus on the bicycle when it comes to the training, and the dirt bike's just kind of, you know, if I have any time left, I'll jump on it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, no doubt. I mean, you like you say, you got a busy thing going on. I mean, you mentioned, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, you're a shirt slinger now, man. I mean,
yeah.
that sounds funny, but I mean,